Now on BBC Two, we begin a busy afternoon of sport as we join Steve Ryder at Silverstone for Sunday Grandstand.
Grand Prix Day at Silverstone. British motorsport's most enthusiastic crowd have been gathering since dawn. The weather is sunny and dry. It's a new shape, Silverstone, but Nigel Mansell has made sure it's the same old feeling here. And that feeling at the moment is one of sky-high expectation, prompted by Mansell's dramatic performance in taking pole position from Ayrton Senna late in yesterday's final qualifying. Good afternoon. Well, the grid will be assembling behind me in just a few minutes' time, and then round 8 of the Formula One World Championship, this British Grand Prix, will be underway at 2 o'clock. But we're hoping that in the next few minutes, things are going to be relaxed enough here down on the grid to just grab a quick word with Nigel Mansell before the serious business begins. And there's no doubting that this is a crucial race. Mansell still has got a chance of that world title, although that seemed a rather distant prospect when Ayrton Senna took control of the competition right from the first round in Phoenix.
Red, green, go! Senna gets away well. Of how slippery it is. Mansell out. Oh! It's pouring with rain now. I look through and I see Senna waving. Look at him. He's saying, stop the race, stop the race. But Senna has won.
There's a spinner there already. That's a Ferrari. If Prost stalled his engine, he's in real trouble. And it looks like he has.
Prost out of the car. He's not starting. Well, this is dreadful for Ferrari. Their top man, an enormous benefit for Ayrton Senna.
And Mansell's going down the inside of the chicane, locked his brakes a bit. Bravery it required, bravery it got, and great skill too.
No one has ever won the first 4 Grand Prix of the season. That is about to be changed and has been changed as Ayrton Senna has victory in the 1991 Monaco Grand Prix for the first 3 races of this year. Superb start by the Williams team. Mansell leading. And where's Senna? Ayrton Senna is missing, and Ayrton Senna is in trouble. You can hear the crowd whooping in the background. Mansell is almost home now. He's stopping. Nigel Mansell, just a few hundred yards from the flag on the last lap. He's stopping. He's banging his steering wheel in frustration. Something has happened. It looks as though he's out of the race. It's a good start from the 2 Williams men. Mansell leads, as he did in Canada.
That really isn't the way for 2 teammates to be fighting at this stage of a Grand Prix.
And Patrese is through. Ricardo Patrese leads the Mexican Grand Prix. This is marvellous stuff. Patrese's blown it again. Prost leads. Mansell up into second place.
Yes, so this is fine driving by Mansell. He can see the cars in front and he's getting himself into position and making Prost, I'm sure, feel very uncomfortable. And Mansell's trying to get around the outside. He's got it. Oh, he's got in front of Prost around the outside now. That is something else. Something else. Sensational stuff from Mansell.
Mansell taking control of things at Manucourt last weekend. Now here at Silverstone, the Red Arrows have just completed their display. Down in the pit lane, we hear the Formula One engines firing up. They'll be making their way around the circuit to join us on the grid in just a minute or so's time. And remember, it's Mansell and Senna on the front row and a second row of Patrese and Gerhard Berger. We hope to speak to Nigel Mansell in a few minutes' time. But let's hear from a man who's won the British Grand Prix 4 times. He was just knocked off the second row in yesterday's final qualifying. That's Alain Prost, 4 times a British Grand Prix winner. We asked, could he make it 5?
Would be very difficult because when I won 4 times, I had maybe the best car, one of the best car anyway. At the moment, I think the Williams is a little bit better, maybe much better sometimes. And also, I don't know about the McLaren. I have no idea about that. And I am 5th on the grid, so it will be a very tough race for me. Also, before and with a longer circuit, it was much easier to overtake. This one it will be a bit more difficult. But if it's hot and also very tiring for the drivers, I have a chance. I'm in very good shape at the moment. I came back very well in form, and I work a lot. And I still want to win. Another time in England. I have a lot of fans. It would be good. I would like to fight against Nigel for the win, even if I'm second.
And right behind me, a great roar has just gone up from the crowd as the first of the Williams has arrived on the grid, but that was Alain Prost, who is a definite contender here this afternoon. We're due, of course, to be live here at the Grand Prix for the next couple of hours or so. But as the Red Arrows make another dramatic pass here, let's just remind you of what's in the rest of the program. Around about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, battling the Red Arrows and the Formula One cars as well. Here's the shape of things after the Grand Prix. We'll have athletics from Haringey, and that's the memorial meeting in memory of our late colleague and great servant of the sport of athletics, Ron Pickering. And then it's back to motorsport after that. Yesterday's Formula 3 championship race here. And bike action also from the Shell Super Cup meeting at Cadwell Park, held over from a fortnight ago. And then towards the end of the program, we'll start turning our thoughts to golf and next week's Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. A moment to just tell you that in the Benson & Hedges Cup final, Worcestershire completed a 65-run win in that match, carried over from yesterday. Lancashire all out for 171. Graham Hick was named the man of the match, and we'll have highlights of that Benson & Hedges Cup final a little bit later. The grid is forming up. Let's hear for the first time this afternoon from our commentary team of James Hunt and Murray Walker.
It is 40 years exactly to the day since Froilan Gonzalez won the British Grand Prix for the first time for Ferrari. Now, is this an omen? Some people are asking, and Nigel Mansell is certainly hoping that it is not. And so, of course, is Ayrton Senna. Well, you've heard and read a lot about Nigel Mansell. In fact, I think they might call today's race the Mansell Grand Prix, because Mansell has dominated it. He was fastest in Friday's free session of practice, fastest in Friday's qualifying session, and on Saturday morning, and on Saturday afternoon, and this morning in the warm-up, it was Nigel Mansell again. And that is very significant, because the fact that his teammate Ricardo Patrese is second on the grid means that second in the order this morning means that the Williams are in superb form. Enormous crowd here, and we have something very special for you. Flying pictures, we call it. And this is it. We have built a railway alongside the fascia there, overlooking the pit lane. And we're going to be able to give you pictures from the point of view of the birds, quite literally, looking down into the cockpits of the cars, if necessary, with a remotely controlled camera. And we've had some marvellous pictures from it in practice, and I've no doubt that we'll be getting some superb ones here in the race until now. Well, the 26-car grid is forming up as we travel down the pit lane to show you what it's going to look like during the race. And it is, of course, a very different Silverstone from the circuit that we have been used to in the past. Because now the Silverstone lap has been changed. It is 3.2 miles long, and there are some very new and dramatic sections in it. Indeed, Nigel Mansell has said that in his opinion, this is now without doubt the greatest Grand Prix circuit of them all. The speed has come down from the all-time fastest of Keke Rosberg to about 160 miles an hour to the fastest lap we've had so far, Nigel Mansell, at about 144. And this is the new Beckett's complex, for instance. To the top left of your picture, you can see the exit from Copse, that's the first right-hander. And then it is, as Nigel Mansell has been saying through the 2 days of practice, an accumulative 9G loading going through this section of corners, 4.5 one way, 4.5 another. But there are other changes. For instance, Stowe Corner no longer runs straight down to Club. This is it. It goes right, then it goes left, downhill, uphill again, then quite a sharp left, which is a second gear bend, and then a long curling right at Club, which leads up to the Abbey curve that we know so well and that the cars will be taking at about 180 miles an hour. But probably the most exciting section of them all in terms of the new Silverstone is the section from Bridge Corner, which is the fastest on the circuit, about 160 miles an hour, through to the loop at Priory, a left-hand bend, followed by another left-hander at Brooklands, and then a double right at Luffield. A magnificent viewing point for the people who are lucky enough to be there. And there have been people pouring into Silverstone since yesterday. They stayed here overnight. They were here queuing up before the gates opened this morning. Now that's the graphic of the circuit. The red bits to the right, the bit sticking out, is where Beckett's used to be, and you can see that there's that daunting complex of corners following the Maggots curve. Then at the bottom of your picture, the red line which goes from Stowe to Club is what used to happen. So you can see now that there's the fast right at Stowe, the left, then the downhill, uphill, left again into Club, up to Abbey, and the little short connecting bit is where the circuit used to go straight on. And you can see that the new corners at Bridge, Priory, Brooklands and Luffield have indeed made Silverstone very different. Now this race, because of today's superb weather conditions, we were very worried yesterday and the day before when it was overcast and cold. It was windy and very chilly indeed. You needed a coat, and we were worried about today. But everything has turned out right as far as Silverstone, the British Racing Drivers Club, the RAC, MSA are concerned, and it's superb for Silverstone, which is no more than it deserves. Helicopter is flying, and I'm no good at estimating crowds, but if today's crowd isn't a record, with the stimulus of our Nige being in pole position again, I don't know what is. So what is the situation in the World Championships? Well, first of all, there's the Constructors' Championship, headed by McLaren. You remember they won the first 4 Grand Prix of the year, 13 points ahead of Williams, thanks to the Didcot team's recent successes, and they in turn are 20 points ahead of Ferrari. Drivers, well, Ayrton Senna leads, of course, thanks to those 4 victories that he has had. 25 points ahead of Nigel Mansell, who is just 1 point ahead of Riccardo Patrese. Alain Prost, 3 times a world champion and 4 times a winner here at Silverstone, or rather 4 times a winner of the British Grand Prix, in 4th position. And then 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet in 5th place. Gerhard Berger, the second driver in the McLaren team, has yet to win for McLaren this year. And so on, down through the World Championship order. Stefano Modena, the Italian in the Tyrrell, Jean Alesi in the second Ferrari, Andrea De Cesaris, who really has, to use a hackneyed word, been sensational here at Silverstone. Second fastest in the warm-up for a long time this morning. Right, so you now have an idea of what Silverstone looks like in graphic terms. Now, this is what it looks like riding with the Benetton, with the Williams of Nigel Mansell. This is the very pole position lap of Nigel Mansell. You can see the graphic. Maggots, that's a fifth gear corner. Then from Maggots into Beckett's. Now, this is where you get the accumulated 9G loading as the car goes from side to side of the circuit. Underneath the bridge, building up to 190 miles an hour down the Hangar Straight into Stowe Corner, changing down from 5th to 4th, curling right at 100 miles an hour. Now starting to loop left. This is the new section, the Vale. Downhill, uphill, down into second gear, left, now start turning right for Club. Inside a slower driver, keep going right, up through the gears now. Third to fourth, to fifth to sixth, up to Abbey Curve at 180 miles an hour. Look for the bridge, and then it's stand hard on everything because it's the bridge corner. Through that, tremendously quick into Priory, second gear. Into Brooklands, still in second gear, a little straight, right to Luffield, second gear, right again, second gear, and now up through the gearbox, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and into Woodcote, building up to 180 miles an hour on the dash down to Copse Corner, which itself has been changed from its configuration last year. A lap with Nigel Mansell, indeed the lap with Nigel Mansell. There he is on the grid, and that lap took 1 minute, 20.939 seconds, a speed of 144.2 miles an hour. Nigel Mansell talking to Prince Michael of Kent. Nigel has met many of the greats of the world in his position now. 2 times a winner of the British Grand Prix, 3 times second place. And Nigel himself says that he gets a tremendous personal charge from the support of the British crowd. All round the circuit, there are Union Jacks, there are banners telling him to go, Nigel, go, and I have no doubt that he will. But let us remember that things have not been perfect either for the McLaren team or for the Williams team this year. For instance, although Ayrton Senna won the first 4 Grand Prix of this year, he had a mechanical problem to do with either the car or the engine in every race. Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese have had a lot of gearbox problems. But down on the grid is Steve Ryder.
And with me is Nigel Mansell. Nigel, this is the atmosphere you know and love so well.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Absolutely, well, it's just tremendous.
The tour of the circuit you've just done, what was your impression of the crowds and their enthusiasm out there?
Oh, the crowds are fantastic. I mean, you just thought that we'd won the race already, but they're just marvellous. We've got a few problems with the car, which my heart's beating rather fast at the moment. We know what the problem is, but the lads will fix it okay. But
can you tell us what the problem is?
Oh, I can't. It's too secret, but we'll fix it. We'll be okay.
Making things a little bit tense, though, is it?
It's a little bit tense, but it's critical because, I mean, if we don't get it right, then it's the difference between possibly winning the race and losing it for sure.
I wish you the best for that. The situation in other areas, tyres today, what are the thoughts there?
Critical. Temperature now has gone up. Looks like we're probably going to have to make a pit stop, although we haven't arranged anything yet. There's a few teams going to try and go through, but it just depends on the balance of the car. This is what we're working at now. We've already made 1 pit stop on the warm-up laps to change the car. The car's handling's changed again already from this morning.
And with Ayrton Senna alongside you on the front row, that run down to the first corner is pretty critical as well, isn't it?
Who's that? Yeah, you better believe it. Ayrton's going to be charging. There's nothing more that would delight him than to beat me in my home race.
next few minutes are going to be fairly critical, fairly tense here. We'll let the lads get on with the job, and have a good afternoon yourself.
Okay, we're going to try and have a great afternoon, and everybody out there, you'll see that won't be for the lack of trying.
Good man, Nigel.
Thank you.
Well, the smooth style of Steve Ryder motivated Nigel Mansell to tell us what he said he wouldn't tell us. He said he had a problem with the car. It was a secret, but he subsequently revealed that it was a handling problem. But the guys know how to put it right. Good news for all the Williams fans. So, front row of the grid is Nigel Mansell, and there is the car of #1 world champion Ayrton Senna. Those figures at the bottom, 10, 10, 10, mean that he's won 4 Grand Prix, each of them giving him 10 points, plus the third places that he has had. So Ayrton Senna has a total of 48 points. And his practice lap yesterday, which gave him second on the grid, was spectacular, to say the least of it. It's no secret that the McLaren is not handling as well as the Williams is, but Senna overcame that and dragged an absolutely magnificent time out of it. Riccardo Patrese is third on the grid, and Bradshaw holding the umbrella over his head, and Riccardo literally taking his time about getting into the car as the national anthem plays. First into the first corner, Mansell or Senna or Patrese. Remember that Riccardo Patrese has had from pole position in the last 3 Grand Prix 3 terrible starts. Not always his fault, but nevertheless he hasn't got away well in the last 3 races when he was in a position to do so extremely well. Gerhard Berger yet to win for McLaren, and he's had his problems, to put it mildly, here at Silverstone, because he blew asunder a Honda V12 engine yesterday after having blown asunder a Honda V12 engine on Friday. And McLaren have 2 specifications of Honda V12 engine here. There's been a lot of discussion about which one Senna will use and which one Gerhard Berger will use. Now that is interesting, because you see now being connected up to Berger's helmet a neck restraint. The G-forces that I've been talking about are so great here at Silverstone that even the tough muscles of the driver's necks used to it can't cope with it, and they're using a physical restraint. So Mansell, Senna, Patrese, Berger. 5th on the grid, and he's with his teammate Jean Alesi there, who is in 6th position on the grid. The great Frenchman, the winner of more Grand Prix than anybody else in the history of Grand Prix racing, 44 of them. The man who has gained more World Championship points than anybody else, Alain Prost, 683.5, and a quite incredible total. And he's also the man who has scored more World Championship points in any one season than anyone else. Paradoxically, the year Ayrton Senna won the championship. And Jean Alesi, who is 6th on the grid, has, to be honest, not performed as well as many people thought and hoped he would since he joined the Ferrari team after leaving Tyrrell last year. He's 8th in the championship with only 8 points so far, as you can see. 9 points for a win, 6 for second, 4 for third, so he has a 3rd place and a 4th place and 1 6th position. He's driving a brand new 643 Ferrari. They flew one in on Friday night from Maranello, where they make Ferrari, and that's the one that Jean Alesi has been practicing in. So we've seen one Brazilian on the grid already, and incident is 10 points for a win. I made a slip there. Roberto Moreno is the 2nd Brazilian on the grid, and he is followed immediately by another one. Roberto Moreno, the extremely cheerful, likeable little Brazilian who has at last got his chance in Grand Prix racing after having been European Formula 3000 champion, having won the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch quite a few years ago, having raced in America, having won the Australian Grand Prix twice when it was not a Formula One event, but he beat people like Alan Jones and Jacques Lafitte in doing so. And you can see just above Roberto's head and to the left the camera, which has been giving us some magnificent pictures in practice. There's another one on Piquet's car. And of course, Nigel Mansell and Roberto Moreno, Patrese in the second one. Williams have got them on their cars. So that's the forward-looking camera from Roberto Moreno's Benetton Ford. And very hot news as we now look at Nelson Piquet in 8th position on the grid in the Benetton is that Tom Walkinshaw, the man who has been responsible for Jaguar's enormous success in world sports car racing, has bought a 35% share of the Benetton team. And we can expect to see a lot of changes there, and it will get all the support that it needs from Tom, and Tom is a winner, so I don't imagine it'll be very long before Benetton are right up at the front. I asked Tom recently when he would be starting in Grand Prix racing, and he said Monday. Now, behind, of course, those 8, there are the rest of the 26-man grid, including 2 British drivers who desperately need a good finish today. Mark Blundell in the Brabham Yamaha is in 12th place on the grid. His teammate Martin Brundle is 14th, and one of them needs to finish 7th or higher today to avoid the dreaded pre-qualification after the British Grand Prix. Well, there he is, the man who is carrying the hopes of so many people here at Silverstone and all over Britain and the rest of the world. 23 points in the World Championship. 25 behind Ayrton Senna. And Senna has not only been winning races this year consistently, the first 4 of them, but he has been getting lower places as well. Those 3rd places that he's been getting have been adding points on. And he has been helped enormously by the fact that nobody else in terms of victories has had more than one. Piquet won in Canada, Patrese won in Mexico, Nigel Mansell won last Sunday in France. And that's meant to say that a lot of the rest of the opposition, the real opposition, have been fighting for the points between them. So, Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, the 2 top drivers on the front row of the grid. James, your thoughts?
Well, looking at Nigel Mansell, and he really is the man at the moment. The championship, the fate of the championship this year would appear to be very much hinging on his performance today. And so far this weekend, he really hasn't put a foot wrong. The Williams has gone magnificently. It's quite clearly the quickest, the most competitive car in Grand Prix racing. They've got an edge on everybody else, and he has taken the inspiration from Silverstone, home crowd and everything. Brilliant lap in qualifying to put himself very comfortably on the pole. And this is a camera on board the car, which gives us a view, there you have it, of Nigel's face. And there is the actual camera, a little tiny finger camera just sitting on the front of the car. There's a little adjustment made to it there, and that is what looks at Nigel. So, in fact, and there is Ayrton Senna. And that is not from on board his car, as far as I know. He does not have an onboard camera today, and Senna is the man who leads the championship, but quite frankly, he is not expecting to beat Mansell today in a straight fight. The Williams is clearly the superior car. McLaren's and Senna certainly acknowledge this at the moment. They are, of course, working on development programs to rectify that situation as hard as they can. But right now, if Mansell has no mechanical problems, he is a firm favourite to win the race today. And the general opinion here is that the only team that can beat Williams today is Williams. And that being if they get it wrong mechanically or with the setup of the car. And quite frankly, I think in Britain, although Riccardo Patrese has had a fantastic season so far his best ever this year, in fact, in Grand Prix racing of the many that he has in which he's partaken. He in Britain, he wouldn't expect to beat Nigel with the inspiration of the home crowd, etc. And certainly he wasn't anywhere near him in practice and qualifying. And in fact was well beaten by Mansell in the French Grand Prix just a week ago. So Mansell's the man of the moment. He's got points to catch up, but he's by no means out of range of Senna in the championship. Remember, Senna really did have the gods with him with his 4 wins in the first 4 races, although it looked very impressive. In certainly 3 of them they had, and there they are, still fiddling with Senna's car around the back of it, but that looks fairly routine. It doesn't look like a panic to me. That was just unplugging all the computer equipment there that goes into the engine's brain. Oh, very high-tech. A bit too technical for me. I was born before the computer age, I'm afraid. But certainly the McLaren team were lucky in the opening races this year. In 3 of Senna's 4 wins, certainly they had mechanical problems, but nothing serious enough to put Senna out of the race. And quite frankly, what was happening, if as much as McLarens were dominating, the rivals were falling apart around them. And the Williams team with their semi-automatic gearbox certainly gave the opposition a start. But they've got a big advantage now with the car. The gearbox seems to be running pretty much without problems now, and they are favourites for today's race. However, let's look for a good start from Senna, because that will give Mansell some work to do, because we don't yet know how easy or difficult it's going to be to pass on the Silverstone circuit. It was designed with considerable thought given to passing opportunities, because there's nothing that makes Grand Prix more boring than when they're all driving around in line astern and nobody can pass anybody. But the acid test comes when the flag drops today, or rather the green light goes on, because in practice you don't really find out. It's when people don't want to be overtaken and that it matters.
Silverstone isn't so difficult to pass on as the Magny-Cours circuit in France that we were talking about last week. There are 3 main overtaking places: Copse Corner, the right-hander, then Maggots, which is a possible place, and Hanger, the straight. But now the full grid of the British Grand Prix of 1991, here in ideal weather conditions. Mansell pole, Senna second, then Patrese and Berger in 3rd and 4th places, followed by Prost and Alesi. The 2 Benettons, followed by Gugelmin and Modena, then JJ Leto. The first British driver, Mark Blundell, 12th. His teammate Brundle, 14th. Then Pirot. And bringing up the rear of the grid, Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, his teammate Mika Hakkinen, and Michele Alboreto, who has qualified the footwork car in spite of very considerable transmission problems as a result of their decision to move from the Porsche V12 engine to the Hart DFR V8. And they've had to completely redesign and rebuild the transmission in just 3 weeks, a mammoth undertaking. They've succeeded in doing it as a result of an enormous amount of very hard work at the factory at Milton Keynes, but it is still a bit suspect. Now you can see there, as we look at Nigel Mansell sitting impassively in his Williams, that the tyres of his car are completely enrobed in the electrically heated blankets, which get the tyres up to racing temperature as near as makes no difference. And that, of course, saves drivers having to wait for 2 or 3 laps before they really give it a bootful. But it doesn't give any particular team an advantage, because any team in Grand Prix racing that wants to have that equipment can have it. It's a fairly big budget item in itself, but in comparison with the costs of many other things that make up the car, it's a pinprick, and it's a very important addition. So Nigel sitting there, the umbrella. It's getting quite hot at Silverstone, I can tell you that. And in that
cockpit, it'll soon be hotter still. There have been temperatures of about 150 degrees at some of the races, like Brazil, where it gets very hot indeed. And there's just a vestigial windscreen in front of Nigel Mansell's visor and most of the other cars. Look at the heat haze. I told you it was hot, and that's how hot it is. And now you can almost feel the tension rising, because the instruction has been given slowly to clear the grid. The officials are moving away. The mechanics are wheeling away the pressurized air bottles that are used to start the engines of these cars, and very soon the grid will be completely clear, and the signal will be given to start on the parade lap, the final rolling lap before the 59-lap British